Thank you again for attending today's webinar. My name is Omar Kahil, Product Marketing Manager here at SolarWinds MSP. And with me is Chris Reed, Senior Product Manager. And we're here today to talk about the new network device monitoring feature and its availability in SolarWinds RMM. So just a couple housekeeping items before we get started here. The webinar will be around 30 minutes or so, and there will be a recording provided as well. If you do have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat whenever you feel like. Any questions you have regarding pricing or feature set, we will be getting to the questions at the end of the webinar. But as always, just throw them in the webinar. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can at the end. Now, I want to start off by saying that regarding this feature set directly and regarding any feature requests, the best place to get your voice heard is actually on this website here. It's ideas.solarwindsmsp.com. All right, this is on a platform I believe called User Voice, and it allows you to not only suggest features to be recommended to be looked at by our product management team, but you can also vote on existing features and feature requests to essentially, bring them up to the top for us to take a look at. All right, and we can see here that network device monitoring is actually one of those features that has been requested and upvoted really for some time. That's really what we're addressing here is that feature. All right, and if you see anything even in what we've launched today that's lacking or needs additional functionality, by all means head into ideas.solarwindsmsp.com and either find the existing suggestion and vote on it, or suggest it yourself. Now, it also goes without mention to say how SolarWinds can essentially give you this kind of technology by being able to really bridge the gap between different parts of the business that we have. SolarWinds is made up of the core IT space, where we have platforms like Orion, the SolarWinds MSP space, where we live and breathe, and then also the cloud portion as well. And with each of these different units, they have different customers and different pieces of technology. But really where SolarWinds can really flex its muscles a little bit here is because we can take technology that would be out of reach and bring them into the MSP space. All right, going back to that Idea Scale website, if you see something on SolarWinds Core, SolarWinds Cloud that you want to have in the MSP platform, by all means, recommend it. Right, because we can take something that might be out of reach due to technical limitations, like maybe it's not multi-tenant, or maybe pricing limitations, it's not kind of laid out the way that it should be. We can bring it into the MSP space. Right, we've done it before with NetPath. We were doing it again with different feature set, but we need your help to kind of recommend and suggest which features you would like implemented. Now, with that being said, let's move on to kind of the purpose of today's webinar, which is taking a look at network device monitoring. All right, and when we start to take a look at kind of when product management starts to sit down and really sit with our customers and look at what they need for this kind of feature, we get some very straightforward answers. All right, I need asset information about my network devices. I need separate and unique monitoring for them, and then I need the ability to monitor these devices using SNMP, such as wireless access point, routers, and printers. All right, that's very specific, and by all means, we can deliver on that, and we will show you that today in today's webinar. Now, the wants are the bigger picture, right? Because the wants are really what allow you to deliver a feature set which is in line with the problems that you have at hand as an MSP. All right, and a couple of the problems here, a couple of the wants is, I want to know what's on my customer's network from a holistic perspective, as in the entire network, and I want to be able to provide more reporting and services beyond servers and workstations. All right, there's a common quote here that I like to pull out. It's Henry Ford. When he was going out to build the car and he was asking his customers what they wanted from him, they all responded with faster horses. All right, that's essentially when they asked him what they wanted. But really what they needed was the ability to get from point A to point B quicker. And knowing that, that's where, again, Henry Ford was able to deliver the automobile we all know and love today. So with that being said, let's dive into that problem just a little bit further. All right, the problem that as an MSP, you need to be able to monitor everything your customer has on their network and not just servers and workstations. All right, and one of the key things as an MSP is that sometimes these network devices, they're not even yours, right? You took on a new client or you inherited a new customer and they already have network devices. They might be out of warranty, they might be collecting dust or whatnot. And unfortunately, you're on the hook for them because they're not willing to replace these expensive pieces of hardware until something fails or something new happens that they actually do need a call to action to replace. All right, so no matter where you are in terms of new hardware, new customers, old customers, you can tell that network devices are on the network, and you're going to be asked to take care of them. We've all been asked before by customers as well, or maybe you've asked the sales reps here, are you monitoring X? All right, and these devices can be things like workstations and laptops of different operating systems. You also got your servers, same deal. And then when you start looking at network devices, the picture gets a bit bigger. We have printers, firewalls, routers and switches, and then different types of devices that are in charge of storage, like SANs and NASs, and then also uninterpretable power supplies, UPSs. Right, these are all devices that are on the network that are connected to the network, and actually, in this case, your customer is expecting you to manage. Right, I've heard a lot of horror stories when it comes to this kind of stuff. All right, something like a networked fridge that the customer actually was expecting the MSP to manage. Right, it's on the network. It got my weather update yesterday, and now today it's not getting my weather. All right, can you come take a look at this? Right, I mean that's a pretty extreme case, but even for things like the uninterruptible power supply, all right, are you sure it's connected and is it on battery power? What about the network attached storage? Are the backups being thrown to it, and are you monitoring its storage space? Especially the network devices, the things that route packets. That's where the critical connectivity happens to the applications and line of business applications that the customer relies on. I do want to say that in our definition of network devices, it means devices on the network. All right, and it's not exclusively, it is collectively saying this, but it's not exclusively networking devices. Devices that are, routing packets like firewalls, routers, switches, wireless access points. That's not what this feature set is actually encompassing. It's the bigger picture. So yes, you can monitor printers using the feature set today. So the implication here is that without visibility into the whole network, you are left to react with little information, right? This makes your job as an MSP much more difficult because now you're having to go on to a customer site and fix an issue which you really have no idea why it broke in the first place, right? Not only are you sending, you're tying up a technician to go on site to fix something that could be, pretty simple and mundane, but it could be a bigger issue that you weren't prepared for. Right, like an entire network device going down, and you're on the hook to replace that network device without having a spare. So with that being said, we're gonna move on to the demo, and we're actually going to be doing it in 3 parts today. So I'm going to do a short demo, cut back into the webinar, and we're going to do that 3 times. So here we go. Everyone should be able to see my demo screen. Sorry for any delay. Try to take it slow. So we're going to start by highlighting, it's actually an existing feature in RMM, but we need to highlight it just because this is what actually feeds all of the network devices and the monitoring that we're going to be able to do for them when we go through that other part of the demo. All right. So the first thing that we need to highlight here is the Networks tab in RMM. Right. This is an existing option that it actually used to contain a feature called Active Discovery. All right, the Networks tab here used to contain a feature called Active Discovery. All right, and you may or may not be using this feature. It is free of charge. You can use this now. And we are actually renaming this feature from Active Discovery to Network Discovery. It's on our website and in the online documentation. It's being renamed. All right, so just know that if you're ever going to search up any help documentation, it's now Network Discovery. And what this feature allows you to do is pretty straightforward. You can actually select here in the drop-down Networks, manage a new network, and depending on the agents that you have installed, I've already done this, so I probably won't see anything. But depending on the agents that you have installed, it's already done the work to figure out if I can actually import any of these networks. All right, so luckily I do have some extra subnets here I can import. And if you don't see anything here when you're doing it yourselves, play around with this this icon here for 1 or 2 agents. I believe it defaults to 2 agents, which is kind of like a fallback. If one agent can't see the network, the other one will. But 1 agent works perfectly fine if it's always online. And just by doing that and selecting save, you can also add in here your SNMP community strength, which we're going to definitely need if we're monitoring any network devices. All right, so give this a name, Lab Network 1, and there we go. It's now added in that network. All right, so again, this is not a billable feature. This is something existing in everybody's dashboard, and you can again take that network that we've just added in, and it might take a few seconds, or it might actually already be populated, but you'll be able to see your entire list of devices that's been discovered by that discovery agent. All right, and what is that discovery agent? It's here under the summary tab. We can see that it's picked up one of my servers as being that discovery agent. All right, this is something that it really does all the work for you behind the scenes. All right, all you have to do is manage a new network, go to connected devices, and it will pick up and find all these devices for you. And it's everything, right? Not just the network devices, but the printers, the switches, the workstations, the Mac devices, the Linux. If it's got an IP address, we're going to find it. All right. And we get questions like, what if there's multiple subnets or whatever? As you can tell here, it's all the same network, but we got different subnets. So you can, again, add them in as needed to find these devices. Right, on this guy alone, we have 135 network devices. Now, going through what's in the south pane here, all right, I just want to highlight these different column headings. So first off, we have a type field here. All right, we actually have tons of different device types available, so you can sort and filter as needed. I'll see if I can grab it here. So you take note, you have all these different types that we have. SNMP is how we categorize them, but just make sure, again, you can filter as needed. Operating system, you also have your capabilities, whether it supports ping or the SNMP protocol. All right, so just sort by that. You also have your print icon and your network device icon. All right, and what this is actually allows you to do is know right offhand if it supports interface checks. Agent, this is for the Windows devices. So if they have an agent installed on it, you'll be able to see that. You have your host name, your manufacturer, your model information, IP, MAC, first seen, last seen. You have tons of information here in the south pane, which again you can use as part of that inventory of these devices. All right, and really the main advantage here of this feature set is a couple main things. Is number one, you want to know what's on your customer's network. Boom, here's your answer for it. The second one is I want to know about new devices on my customer's network. All right, I've heard, again, more horror stories around this where someone brought in a random old wireless access point from home because they got terrible Wi-Fi at their desk, or maybe they didn't have the password. But in any case, they plug it in, and then they've just exposed this wireless access point in the business with no Wi-Fi password to the whole network, right? So that kind of stuff, being able to see what's on the network, and you can actually set this to be alerting, as in like alert me when there's new additions to the network as well. Beautiful. So that's again the first part of the demo. We're going to be coming back to the demo later on, but just to highlight that the main key things that we just showed you, you can discover your networks using that network discovery feature. You can also manage them, right? Because from this feature, you can right-click an agent and push to advanced monitoring agent to it if you have the credentials for it. You have your cataloging of asset information like MAC, IP, OS, etc. Monitoring, we're going to get to that as well, but you can also monitor when new devices are added or removed from the network. And then from a security and visibility concern, you can protect your customer networks. Right? You want to make sure everything you're looking at is the way it was yesterday. Right? There's no new device. There's no new random workstation or guy brought in his own stuff and it's connected to the network. All right, and to again remind you guys, this is free and it's available to you today, and we've added to it from this launch. All right, moving on. So the next problem that I want to address is as MSPs, you guys have a lot of tools, and at SolarWinds we have a tagline that we want you guys to get the tools you need to make IT look easy, right? Because in all honesty, network device monitoring isn't anything new, and SolarWinds is really built upon that premise of very, very capable network device monitoring. All right, and if you're using these different tools, or if you're not doing it all, then there's either some efficiency losses or there's a cost to these tools, which we want to address by having it integrated into RMM. All right, so first off, going back to that PM philosophy, I need network device monitoring, which is included in my dashboard. It's on a separate tab, not under a server, and we'll talk to that. And it's also included in my reports. It's separate from servers and workstations. And I want a low-cost solution, straightforward setup, and I need it integrated in RMM. Now, speaking to this, which is on a separate tab, not under a server, there might be a fair number of you today which are aware of an existing feature in RMM, which is the SNMP check feature. Right, this is actually available under a server, and it might or might not be free depending on your licensing model. But this is a feature which you can actually use to monitor SNMP on your network, but it's under a server. All right, so I just want to remind everybody that this feature does exist, and it's actually not. We're not touching it at all. We're not cutting anything over. We're not taking this feature away, and there's good reason for this. The main reason is because this feature is filling a gap in monitoring for servers themselves, right? Because servers have specific pieces of applications like Dell Open Manage, HP Insight Manager, and these applications, they communicate their hardware information using SNMP. All right, so if you added in, if you did it right now, if you want to go add a 24/7 check for SNMP, you would get a big list of hardware monitoring, and the destination IP address would be localhost. All right, it just so happens that you can also set another IP address for either like an iDRAC or ILO port. But that feature aside, when you use this embedded feature for monitoring a network device, if you so happen to have set that up, then you're missing out on everything we're going to be showing today. The reporting, the asset information. It's also very manual to do this, right? You have to actually know the OID and MIB off by hand. And then it's manual repetitive setup, right? There's no templates here. It's just one by one adding in the check for every device and every network device. All right. So that's just one thing we need to address in terms of the existing way of doing it in RMM today. And really, what we're going to highlight is this new tab, network devices. Let's get back to the demo. So back to the demo here. First thing I want to mention is that this is the new tab, network devices. This is the new addition to everybody's dashboard. It went live about a week ago, and we released the general availability release as of yesterday. And this is where you can actually see network devices. All right. Now I just realized I forgot a step, which is to actually how to get a device in there. So let me take a step back. So to actually be able to monitor a network device, you can do it in two ways. You can go to the drop down here. Actually, let me pick a network that is online. Sorry. So to import a network device, what you would be able to do is, no, still not giving it to me. Let's try one more. There we go. Cool. So from this capability, you'll be able to either from the drop down here, go monitor device. All right, pay attention to the capabilities here. You should try to pick up one that already has SNMP set up on it, or go set up SNMP on the device first, then create the network. But you can either, here's a couple of good examples, you can either right click and go monitor device, or you can click on the drop down here and go monitor device. All right. So when you do this, I've already done it, but when you do this, it doesn't cut you over automatically to the network devices, as in it doesn't change the window. So you can do this over and over and over again to add more network devices. And then when you're done, you would click on the network devices option here. All right. Now, key thing, just because it's probably going to come up, but when you import a network device, that's when the cost is incurred for these devices. All right, this is a billable feature. We are going to be talking about price on this webinar. But importing that network device is when the cost is when it will show up on your invoice. When you add the network, that first step, there's no cost there. All right, so just know the difference between when it becomes a billable feature and when it doesn't. This is free. This is a billable feature. All right. So now that it's imported into the dashboard, we'll take a look at the Network Devices tab. If you get stuck, we did add this feature that allows you to actually that we've embedded some tooltips into the dashboard here. We're going to be updating some more of these as well, but just know that you have a pop-up here for more information. It just takes you to the blog post where it has links and stuff for you guys to have on hand. But in here we have our network devices, and we can see that a lot of that information that we saw in the south pane of the networks tab is now here in the north pane. And it looks a lot like our servers and workstations, right? It's very transparent in that aspect that it's not something new and crazy, right? So you have your type, operating system, your client, site, and then your network name. All right, that network name is what came from the networks tab. You got your name, manufacturer, model, IP, MAC, and connectivity status. All right, and just as you would expect, yes, you can get notifications when these devices go online. You'll get your outage information. It's all there, right? It behaves like the other tabs you have in RMM. So let's and you'll notice here in the south pane we also have some information about these devices. All right, we're gonna talk about those checks in more detail, but I just want to again make the clear indication that this network devices tab is the new tab. Importing devices from here gets it into there. All right, and it behaves just like the other tabs. You have your filtering capabilities, you have your outage and checks. It's all there as a standard option. So with that being said, that's the recap of that part of the demo. All right, so we highlighted a couple key things: the filters, the checks, the outages. The price of network devices starts at $299. This is USD pricing, $299 per network device per month. Right? We understand that on the line today we do have a mix of customers in terms of their contracts and their arrangements with us. So there are bulk discounts that do apply, and your best way of getting that kind of answer is to contact your account rep for more details. If you don't have your account rep's information, we do also have a generic sales email. You can email as well. But if you're looking for information about pricing and any bulk discounts, by all means, hit us up. We'll gladly talk to you about that. Now, moving on to the last problem that we have is being able to see more into what is impacting your customer's environment. All right, and the main thing here is, earlier in the webinar we were talking about, why is it important to monitor the entire customer's network, from the entire network, the holistic perspective. There's also, we talked about the tools that you have today. And then the last one is, what do I actually get by monitoring the network device? Right? Why do I care about the printer and how it's doing, or the printer or switch or router or firewall or UPS for that matter? Right? Like I'm very focused on servers and workstations. Those are what tickets I get, most of the time. What makes network devices so important? All right, and the answer here is that network devices are a critical component in your customer's business, and they really help ensure your end users have access to their line of business applications and the internet. All right, so if you're not monitoring them, then you really left out a piece of the puzzle that your customers rely on to access these kind of applications. All right, so going back to that PM philosophy, we were told by you guys I need to be able to monitor all these kind of devices, and I need to monitor them for all these kind of things. All right, I'll give you guys a few examples. All right, connectivity, that's a basic answer. Everybody wants to know about up and down status for their network devices. All right, that's a ping, but what about the connectivity on the interfaces? All right, on the ports and the ports themselves, what about the connectivity to them? Is it up? Is it down? Is it performing correctly? Is it got any errors? All right, that kind of information gives you details about the specifics about the network device, and not just, hey, is it up? Hey, is it down? Same deal with uptime. All right, uptime is one of those, being able to figure out if a device is rebooted or not. If the uptime is, less than 5 minutes, then something's up. Toner and ink levels, right, for your printers. Yeah, printers are pretty annoying. We get a lot of call drivers because of it. I can't print, and it could honestly mean that the guy just needs to restart his print spooler service, and all will be well. Or it could actually mean that the printer's out of ink, right, or toner, and you need to replace it, and you're chasing your tail here, trying to figure out why you can't print, and you weren't monitoring that error on the printer in the first place. Temperature status, there's a story here. Customer had a network device fail because the guy closed the closet door on it, where all the cooling would come from, and it overheated, and eventually it failed. And if you were monitoring the temperature on that, it would have been an easy catch, right? Get notifications when temperature goes up above a certain threshold, and off it goes. You guys can get the gist here in terms of what kind of monitoring is available, but these are all examples that we've heard from you. Now, in the bigger picture, a network device, when you look at the routers and switches and firewalls, the big guys, these are the devices that typically connect your customers together and connect your customers to the internet and to their line of business applications. All right, and here's a pair of eyeballs, if anybody was confused by that. If you're so focused on taking a look downstream of those network devices, all right, servers and workstations, and if that device fails, then you have no idea why your customer is down. And you actually, not only that, you've cut off that critical path between you and the customer. All right, so most of the time when I ask this question to MSPs in terms of, when your customer calls up and says, hey, I can't monitor, I can't access the internet, what's going on? 9 times out of 10, the answer that I get is, well, I have to send someone on site, right? Everybody calls this the customer emergency or customer fire, On top of that as well, if you were actually monitoring it from the RMM standpoint, you can monitor the external interface, for instance, or at least an uptime connection. Being able to see is it up from an external standpoint. You have access to that kind of functionality. So the implication here is that one device can affect many others, wasting time and money troubleshooting. Right? Your customers live off of uptime. Right? You live off of making sure they don't have a minute of downtime. All right? A lot of MSPs they want to make sure that they have that 99.99% uptime for their customers, and they can put that on their advertising slogans. Right? So that that lawyer's office that gets billed at $500 per lawyer per hour, if they're down and they can't use whatever systems they're using, then it's not just the device that's impacting, and it's not your cost, but also their cost as well. That proactive approach to monitoring them and keeping that downtime figure as low as possible. Now let's go back to the demo here and show you guys specifically what kind of checks we have available on these network devices. All right, so let's go through a few examples here. We'll start off with the Cisco devices. So with Cisco devices, we have a bunch of different SNMP checks that have been set up. All right, and this was all done automatically, right? Like all we had to do was import the network device, and then RMM did all the work to decide, okay, I'm going to apply these checks, and they all worked. So there's really not much you need to do from a setup perspective, other than just make sure the device has SNMP enabled on it, right? And we're going to go through a couple of best practices there. So we can see we have on the Cisco device, this is a 3750 switch, 24 ports. We have the switch status, memory status, power supply, and CPU status. Right? And if any of these were to fail, you get your notifications on it as well. Ping check, fan status, and the stack status if it's part of a stack. And then interface check, this will get pretty big, but we have all 24 ports, their names. We can also see their operational status, are they up or down? And clicking on this gives me that information as well with more details. Administrative status, operational status, all of it's shown here, right? This is the information you'd want to know about your network devices here in the dashboard. Same with your outages. Let's take a look at a Draytech switch. Should be close to the same things here, but we have our interface checks as well. Netgear, Again, our interface checks. Just want to be able to show, I think this device as well has some different monitoring. Temperature status, that's another key call out. Again, based on that example we showed earlier, we talked about earlier, which is, what happens if the temperature spikes. Devices don't typically just fail for no reason, right? They have some sort of telltale signs that they're failing, and you're able to catch that and be alerted of that proactively, right? There's tons more that's out there in terms of examples. I don't have that many in my lab to show you, but we'll definitely be talking about the overall capabilities of network device monitoring. But I do just want to touch on a little bit here on best practices, all right? The best practices when it comes down to how to get SNMP to work correctly in this environment is by using the version SNMP v2c, all right? When you go to any of your network devices, there's usually an option for which protocol you want to use. SNMP v2c is the one we're looking for. And by default, a lot of these network devices set the community string as being public, right? It's akin to setting your password as password. There's no write access, it's just read access, but you should consider changing the community string. And then a lot of network devices allows you to also decide where you want to accept requests from, right? That's what I'm saying here is which device should be asking, which device have I allowed to ask me about my SNMP stuff. And you can either set that to the discovery agent, right, which we'll show again. You can either set that to the discovery agent, or you can set it to 0000, which again is opening you up, but it's only read access. Now that discovery agent, just to bring back up the dashboard here, all right? It's again something that you set up. It was set up automatically for you when you added in the network, but if you want to know which device it is, you just need to head over here to the Networks tab under Summary, and then it's here under Current Discovery Agent. Right here's your host name for it. Right, there's also a preferred. If there was two agents online, they can switch back and forth. Okay, so just know that when you're setting up SNMP, you need to do this beforehand in order to monitor the devices using SNMP. And we're giving you a couple best practices here. All right, so those supported devices that we have, here's the list, and we definitely have more. It encompasses about 90% of what we've seen in the field. By all means, if again you're missing out on something, then there is the Ideas website. And then the monitoring that we have supported as well, it's depending on the actual vendor. But here's kind of the short list. We talked about a few of these examples like CPU, temperature, fan status, battery level. I didn't talk about that one. That's for your UPSs. An MSP mentioned that when he sees the battery level drop on his UPSs, that would mean that he's also had a power outage of some way, shape, or form. Right. So key things and key indicators that you can actually monitor and see as your outage history. Right, and again, call out here to the ideas.solarwinds.msp.com website if you see something that's missing. All right, it's very easy for us to add new monitoring. So, if you were to request monitoring for, let's say, Linksys routers, the home office brand, then just make sure that number one, make sure it supports SNMP, and then also if you can provide us with an SNMP walk, that'll give us the information that we need to create the monitoring. So let's recap here what we've talked about so far. All right, three main problem statements. All right, the first one being you need to be able to discover and monitor the customer's network devices. All right, and also be able to monitor the holistic network, the whole thing. Get the tools you need to make IT look easy. And then the last one is see more into what is actually impacting your customer's environment. Why do I need to monitor the network device, and what does it actually show me? Now, we also need to make a quick call out here to NetPath. All right, this is a feature we talked about last time around when we held our webinar. And this feature, available for some time now, allows you to map from any source server and workstation in your dashboard to any destination IP address or host name. All right, and what it does is it maps out all the hop nodes and links in between that agent to any destination. Right, so use cases here are things like Office 365 and other web applications. You'll know what's in between you and that application. And not only that, when you get a problem, you'll be able to look at a dashboard and address it quickly. All right. How often do you get tickets from your customers saying Office 365 is slow or isn't working? I mean, it's got pretty good uptime, but even then, when you get that ticket, you can actually have the answer here on NetPath and see that firsthand. All right, maybe it's the ISP that's slowing down. Maybe it's something on the internal network that also is impacting you. Right, this gives you that complete end-to-end visibility. And on top of that as well, now that you have network device monitoring, these internal nodes, right, these the 10.199.0.1, that's our subnet here. That's our gateway, sorry. You'll be able to monitor those network devices internally. Right, pretty cool stuff now that you have that complete visibility into your customers' devices. So now that we finished off a majority of the webinar, and before we get into the go-to-market side, we wanted to run a poll in the webinar, just to, again, get your attention back, and just make sure that the next section here really drives home to the audience. So we're running a poll here. It should be on your screen. You should be able to select directly on your screen. And the question is, are you responsible for your customers' network devices?
So, Omar, while we're waiting for everybody who's on the webinar today, and hello everyone and welcome, if you could just go over the pricing for network devices one more time for everybody, please.
Absolutely. So it's again, it's very much dependent on which contract model that you're on. It's best for you to talk to your sales rep or account manager. It starts at USD pricing, $299 per node per month, and it goes down with volume discounts. All right, so that's kind of the structure. The average selling price that we've seen is going to be a little bit less based on the number of nodes and how many you might be using, but it's always best to just speak to your account manager. They'll be able to give you the price that's for your account.
So we've got the responses in, Omar, and 82% of the folks on our webinar today are responsible for managing their customers' network devices. 8% aren't, and 11% are part of a team that shares the responsibility. So back over to you.
That's actually a beautiful answer. All right, 82% is kind of what we were going for, like 4 and 5. The main reason is that when we talk to our customers about this problem, they all say yes, I'm responsible for it. But then when we try to make the conversation towards how do you make money off of it, how do you actually position it towards your customers so that it's profitable to you, that's when we get a lot of different answers. All right. So this next part here, guys, it's meant to really talk to everyone regarding what's the best way to take advantage of the network device monitoring feature and how to position it to your customers. And it's strictly advisory, right? This is something that we do quite a bit with our MSP Institute. If you guys have seen any links about that, but we have our Institute, which again just helps you guys understand certain things in the MSP environment and better react to it. So this is just strictly advisory, based on what we've heard from guys like you and our customers when we were developing this feature. All right, the number one way that we saw our customers today look at network device monitoring is I consider it as an absorbed cost, and I reap the benefits from a reduction in either technician time troubleshooting, expenses in the event of a device failure, reduced technician time and headache with dealing with different tools, so flipping back and forth. And then the biggest one is that downtime, right? Where I'm monitoring network devices and I have much less downtime now that I've monitored it proactively. And on top of that as well, the customer trusts me more. They're not jumping ship to some other MSP because they're giving them a lower price. You built that trust, that relationship, saying, I never had a problem with this guy. Why would I even consider it? Even if you're cheaper, an hour of downtime by taking the risk of going to another guy is not something that I want to even think about. Right, and an MSP here gave me this example. It's a great one. He said being proactive is a lot like selling your customer a life jacket. Right, you give them a life jacket, $3 a month, and it helps protect them from drowning. Right, so if you ever fall off the boat, then you're already taken care of. Right, being reactive is a lot like being thrown one of these, a life buoy. Right, where it's thrown to you after you're already drowning, and you typically have to call for help or send in a ticket. And every minute and every hour that goes by to solve that issue, it's where I'm really missing out on that trust and support, right? So this is just kind of like an aside based on the proactive side of things in terms of what we talked about here, right? Because if you're going to take on the cost of monitoring a network device, you want to be able to consider yourself a more proactive MSP and monitor things so that you know why they failed, right? If you weren't monitoring it at all, if for that 11% that weren't monitoring it, then if that network device was to fail, then you're going to have to go on site and throw them that life buoy and figure out what was broken. Now there is another approach to this, which is an actual revenue advantage, which is to make money off of this. All right, and there are a fair number of MSPs that we talk to that do charge to monitor network devices. All right, this depends again on your licensing model. I'm not asking everybody here to go rip up their contracts and make new ones. Depending on if you're doing per user, per device pricing, there is an approach here to actually consider making some money off of a network device. Right, I'll give you two examples. If you're doing per device pricing, luckily, a network device is a device. It's a thing, right? So you can, by all means, have that conversation with the business owner and tell them, yeah, you got workstations, yes, you have servers, but you also have a network device, right? It's this big old thing. It's sitting in the attic here, and it's giving you guys all this Wi-Fi. It takes power, it collects dust, it has a warranty, and it probably will fail at some point in time. All right, so it is in the MSP's and the customer's best interest to kind of come to an agreement here and work out some sort of proactive agreement to monitor that network device. All right, and you can just work out the cost accordingly. There's also a way of breaking down a cost of a network device into a per user charge. All right, that's where the industry's going as we see it, in terms of I'm not charging for a workstation and a server anymore. You got 10 heads in the office, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars per head. All right, and this might be very simple for a lot, but let's just go through a very simple example. Let's say you have a $1,200 network device, and you need to break that down over a customer contract for a year. $1,200 over 12 months is $100 a month. To make math simple, let's say you have a 10-user environment at your customer. That is $10 per end user per month to offset the cost of that $1,200 network device. Your monitoring cost from us at its max is $3, and that would be the cost for that first year to monitor and offset the cost of that network device. After that, once you've paid that off and you want to pay your support or maintenance and subscription, you can work out a new agreement. All right, but that is a very simple way to break down the cost of a network device into your per user pricing. Now, another example that I stumbled upon my own. This is kind of speaking to why it's very beneficial to be proactive. It's a lesson from history. All right, it's there was a guy by the name of Marcus Licinius Crassus back in the Roman times, and he took advantage of the fact that Rome had no fire brigade. So he collected a bunch of men, about 500 or so firefighters, and the way that he did his firefighting was very sneaky. And the way he did it is that whenever he'd get a call saying, "I got a fire," he would rush on site with his men, and he would negotiate the price of his service while the building was on fire. Right? That seems very low, right? Like you're getting the building's on fire, and here he is, all those men in hand, and he's actually negotiating with you the price of his services. And you can bet for sure that the more time goes by, the higher the price goes up because, well, the building's more on fire now. All right, so that was back in the Roman times, right? So let me just paint you guys the picture today, right? You're an MSP. You got a customer calls you up and says, "Help, I'm offline. Please come fix it. Everything's not working here, and they're kind of drowning, right? Or technically on fire." So you arrive and you assess the situation, and you say it's going to take a few hours to fix, and it's going to take a new piece of hardware. And at this point, like, the customer's technically on fire. They're down. They're not doing anything, and you're standing there, quote in hand, giving them the option of either going to another guy or biting the bullet for your services. right? I mean, that's very similar in that case of you can either go be reactive, like a firefighter, come to you after you're already on fire and profit off a failure, or you can be more proactive and look for a proactive approach to profit off of their success. Pay them a couple bucks a month to say that, when you actually do catch on fire, I'm there already. I hope you guys like that story. Let's finish off today's webinar. So just one more quick point here in terms of pricing. So it's $2.99 per device per month. It goes down with quantity. You get everything that we showed today in terms of network devices. There's no hidden gotchas in terms of, oh, this costs more. It's not. It's just everything is for that price. That network discovery feature that we showed, that networks tab, all right, again, that is technically free. You can add the networks and as many networks as you want, all free of charge. Quantity discounts do apply. Please contact your sales rep if you have any questions, or this email as well, msp._na_sales@solarwinds.com. If you don't know who your rep is, that's our generic email. It is free for the remainder of the month of October. All right, so that is 1 week from today. So October 31st is next Wednesday. So if you haven't bought Halloween candy, make sure to do that as well. But if you do try this feature, it is free for that month. All right. The round of billing commences November 1st, meaning that what we look at your dashboard in November and we see the devices that are turned on in November, and that's when you get your first invoice is December. Right? It's not the other way around. I'm not saying that I'm going to send you an invoice in November for what you do in October. That's not technically free. So to recap, I'm going to be very specific here with the words. The usage for the month of October is at no charge. The billing commences November 1st. Any devices turned on in that month of November, you will get that in your December invoice. Cool. So to recap here, we can see that the feature that we've shown today is very simple to set up. Okay, it's done all the work for you. All you have to do is add a network device. Everything's simple from then on. It's also visual, right, giving you that visibility into both the network devices and don't forget NetPath. And then last but not least, we have affordable pricing as well. All right, free for the month of October. If you have any questions about volume discounts or anything, please contact your sales rep or reach out to our generic email. All right, and we do have one more poll question before we get to your questions. We're just looking to get some feedback here on the webinar and know if you guys enjoyed it. So it should be on your screen now. Did you enjoy the webinar? Once you've answered that, again, feel free to throw your questions in the chat as well, and we'll get to those.
So let's, while people are voting, let's ask a few questions. So there's been a lot of questions about the pricing. So let's go over it one more time, just so everybody is clear on the pricing. Specifically, Omar, if you can address, where'd it go? That a node can have multiple networking gears on it. So is that one price, $2.99 for all devices, or exactly how is that working?
Yeah, so maybe I'll illustrate. That might make things easier. So the networks. Oh, it's still showing the poll question. So
well,
the network.
Let's close the poll. There you go.
Okay. Okay, we got the feedback though.
Yeah, 97% of your audience is enjoying the webinar.
Perfect. All right, so let's illustrate and answer that question. So this networks option. All right, this is the free. This doesn't have any charge whatsoever, right? So when you add a network, and whether there was 1, 10, or 1,000 devices on the subnet, then there's no charge here. All right, it's when you actually right-click here and you import the device here for monitoring, and you stick it on the network devices tab. That's when the charge is incurred, and it's every device is considered a node here, right? So I have 5 network devices, which would be 5 nodes, and if it was $3, it would be 5 times $3 per month for those devices.
Okay, and so we're going to stick with that for a little, the charges and the pricing, for just one more question. So on the issue of the charges, if the device is not set up with SNMP, is there still a charge that the customer will incur?
Yeah, that is true. So if you're just doing a ping check, for instance, the device is being imported in the dashboard, and there will be a charge for it. Right. So it is in your best
Okay.
interest to import SNMP enabled
Okay.
devices.
And can you walk through the reporting options one more time, please?
Yeah, I actually didn't do that at all, but let's take a look at it here. So it has been added into the executive summary report. All right. So if you do run a report, it might not actually have anything because we just created this environment, but it should be here in the, yeah, we just created this environment. Yeah, so it should be in the executive summary report. So you guys, if once you add it in, give it a bit of time, there should be some information in there as well. And then on top of that, if you guys remember from the wall chart, right? The wall chart, when you do it the old way of doing the SNMP checks, the SNMP checks under a device, but now it'll be under its own device. Right? So it's a new environment. Unfortunately, I can't show it, but it should be in those two places.
How often will there be new hardware added? For example, Ubiquiti is becoming very popular with SMBs right now. So what's the plan around, as much as you can say, around adding new devices that are being monitored?
Yeah, yeah. So it's all depending on you requesting that monitoring, right? I mean, there's really tons of network devices that are out there, and unfortunately, there's no generic template, right? Like, so there's only generic templates for host name and uptime, but then everything else is specific. So it's always best to go to ideas.totalwinsmsp.com and either find the existing feature request or create your own and suggest it there so that we can take a look at it and add it in.
Thanks, Omar. One more question kind of around the manufacturing device list. Is there a location where our customers can go to find the list of devices that are already supported?
Yeah, so there is a feature sheet that's posted on our website, and it's also on our website, right? So if you go to solarwindsmsp.com and go under RMM, under network device.
Sorry to interrupt, can you just show everybody on your screen how to find that?
Sure. So here under RMM, and then we've added in this new network monitoring. And if you click on Learn More, we have down here, we have the supported monitoring and devices. And then you can also click on this video here and watch this video in action.
Awesome. Thank you. Here's a really interesting question. If a device is being monitored from the internal agent, how can we tell if the router is down?
Yeah, so there's a couple workarounds here, and what I've seen is yeah, when there's an internal agent, it like if the network goes down, then you kind of lost some of that capability for monitoring. There's two approaches that I found. One of them is there's this site overdue cross check. This is an existing feature. All right, so you can use this existing feature to kind of ping two devices. So take a look at this. This is existing. I think I went too fast there, but it's when you right click and go edit site. It's here under data overdue cross check. All right. So that's the first answer. The second answer is you can also use if it's a firewall, you can use the external interface. Right. So if it has an external IP address, you can just set it up from another customer or somewhere else to ping that external interface.
We have a couple of final questions here all around SNMP. So when you're enabling SNMP on a device, do you have to do the discovery again?
Yes, you would actually. So the best way that I've seen that is just delete the device and then let it refresh.
Okay. And are regular SNMP checks going away?
No, they're not, because again, they fill that gap of being able to monitor the server itself for its SNMP information. Right? We're not touching it. We're not copying things over. It's staying the way it is, and it's there to fill that need for servers.
Okay. And we have time for one more question. And this one is about monitoring with RMM. And how do we monitor with RMM an external device and set up a rule so that we're not opening up the client router network to everyone in the world on the internet?
Yeah, so that'll just become that'll become something that's actually more specific to the environment. Like if what I've seen most MSPs do is that they would allow requests from a specific host to ping that external interface. Or if the better answer that I've seen recently is customers have been using NetPath, all right, and they can set up NetPath from one customer to the internet, or one customer, because NetPath actually is the information is not on the device. It's in our NetPath lab. So there's a couple different approaches here to kind of see things outside of the agent.
Okay, just one final note for everybody who's on the webinar right now. If you have any specific questions about your own instance of RMM, please reach out to your account rep or your account manager, and or customer support, and ask for help there. That's it for questions, Omar. So over to you again to wrap it up.
Thank you. Yes. So just key thing about that comment, guys, is that just due to customer privacy concerns, we can't answer all the questions, but we will definitely have someone from sales reach out to you and answer your question. All right. So thank you again, everybody, for attending today's webinar. Don't forget there is a recording that will become available, and don't forget that there's also a free trial for this for the remainder of the month of October. All right. So give it a shot. It's available, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you again, and have a great day.